So dear friends, we have just begun the month of October. And the month of October, as I said last time, two important M's, Mother Mary and the missions. And we are on the first Sunday in the month of October, what we call the 27th Sunday of the year. We have a beautiful message, perhaps not the normal one, usual one, but God asking us, what's the use of God's graciousness to us that is given to us in different forms? Last week we spoke about God's graciousness, and He's so gracious that He doesn't keep back behind. And so in this Sunday He seems to be asking us, what about my generosity? What about the talents and the different gifts that I've given you? And therefore this Sunday's readings are something special. The picture of the vineyard comes before us. For the Israelites, the vineyard was very important. For them, the wine was a sign and symbol of victory. And therefore, to every occasion, whenever there was marriage, at the wedding of Cana, the wine is missing or lacking. And that's how Jesus has to create, or rather, do His first miracle. And so the vineyard was very important. They spent most of their time, even the rich ones, to work in the vineyards, to tend them, to graft them, and so many other things, so that the vineyard became a sign and symbol of their existence. And so today's readings are in this context of the vineyard. In the Gospel we find that there's this landlord who has very lovingly sowed or perhaps planted a vineyard. And how much time and how much energy he spends in it. He not only plants the vineyard, he puts a hedge around it so that people just don't come and trample over it. He dug a wine press in it and also built a tower to see that it's guarded and protected well. And when he has done all these things, and perhaps the wines are coming, the fruit is coming, and therefore he sends happily his servants to collect the fruits and bring it to him. Unfortunately, he finds resistance from the workers that are there, the workers that have gone to collect, and the workers there in the field oppose them and they drive them away. And perhaps he has still patience, and he takes another bunch of workers, he sends them, and perhaps these are much more qualified, much more decent and polite. Maybe they will deal with the situation, but they also send them away. Perhaps they drive them away, they kill them away. And finally he says, let me send my own son. They will surely have a lot of respect for my son because he is the owner's son. But unfortunately, he sees that even his son was ill-treated, thrown out of the vineyard, and even killed. And the question is, why do I have to suffer this ignominy of these people? Because the vineyard is mine. I have taken the trouble to build it, to plant it, to see that I expect the fruits. There's a beautiful sentence in the first reading of Isaiah also, which speaks once again about the vineyard. What more was there for me to do for my vineyard that I have not done it? And so this lament from the owner, from the landlord perhaps, and from God Himself to each one of us. The Gospel of Matthew chapter 21 verse 33 to 43 is a very telling, a very strong message for us. And what's the message we take home? First of all, perhaps I could just enunciate three small lessons that we can learn. The first one is God's generosity. God gives and gives, and He forgives and forgives. So God gives and gives, though we forget. But then many a time perhaps we take it for granted. We take it for granted. The gifts that God has given us, the talents that have gone us, the arms and the organs that God has given me. God has given me an eyesight. When I see a person who cannot see, perhaps I can remember that I have got a sight. I have got my ears. I have got my teeth. I have got my nose. I've got my health. There are so many things that God has given us out of His generosity. But second thing what I would say is squandering of God's gifts and talents, perhaps even opportunities. If we go through our life, if you go through our past, if you go through our history, so many things we have wasted. We have wasted, a little later I shall be speaking about the climate. So many things of the climate are wasted. The waters are wasted. And the fruits and the plants and the trees are cut down. The animals are shot down. This is in the nature. But in a personal level, so many of our talents we don't make use of. So many of the opportunities that God gives us, we don't make use of. We just waste away. We just allow it to flow away. It's like the water that is flowing and just getting wasted. So also is our life, the opportunities that God gives us. And the third one is God's anguish that what is given to us is wasted. And therefore, what we reject, as it were, the sentence is very beautiful. The stone that is rejected becomes a cornerstone for another building, for another project. And what I have rejected, perhaps for God or someone else, becomes the cornerstone. So many times we find, there was a parent who was telling me that, what less have I given to my children? I have got 2 sons. I give them everything, food, travel. I leave them by vehicle up to the school. They are given books, but they just seem to be wasting time. But then I came across in one of our boardings in our orphanages a child who's an orphan and wanting to get books, wanting to get uniform, shining in the school. How the child perhaps is making use of things that are given to her, and many of us are wasting. So therefore, the beautiful saying, the stone that is rejected might become the cornerstone somewhere. I might realize it in my own lifetime that what I have thrown away perhaps becomes the cornerstone for something else. And spiritually we say that we have also rejected Jesus in our life. Jesus is the vineyard. He is the vine. He is the vine and I am the vine and the branches, he says. But then we may have rejected him. We may have perhaps discarded him. And that is why the Jesus, our Savior, perhaps also makes the same complaint. What more I should have done in your life? What more perhaps is lacking that I should take care of? And we have to ask God's forgiveness. We have to say that we have rejected Jesus from our life. That beautiful saying of John chapter 3 verse 16. God so loved the world that He gave His only Son. He sent His only Son to the world. Meaning to say that this Son of God came for my sake, came for each one of us. And that is very important for us to realize what we are wasting. Not only our things, our talents, our opportunities, we are rejecting God Himself. So that is why let us turn back. Let us ask the Lord for mercy and compassion and accept Jesus in our life, who is the greatest gift for us, so that we can not only acquire Him, bring Him close, but we can bask in His glory, in His love.